Yeah, do you want to give us just a little chatting to conversational tone?
Yeah. What time do we eat tonight?
Well, that's an important question.
That's always a good one.
Good, I'm good.
7 o'clock?
7 o'clock.
Are you hungry now?
Either way.
Okay.
Okay. All right, you guys are ready.
We are, and I'm rolling.
Dave, you've been with the festival. You've been here since the first one, since almost the first one till now. Can you give us your feelings on what it's meant to you, or?
When we were coming up, and the closer we got to Newport, the more memories came back. When we crossed the bridge, I started thinking about how we used to have to cross on the ferry. And you'd have to wait and wait and wait because all these people that are here had to line up for the ferry. Then I started thinking about the guys that I played with here and that I heard here, from Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington and Stan Kenton and Woody Herman, on and on. Miles Davis, the Modern Jazz Quartet, Zoot Sims, J&K that I recorded a CD with, and Paul Desmond, Jerry Mulligan often played with me, Chet Baker. And the first time I heard Quincy Jones was here, and Bill Evans was playing with Miles the first time I heard him. And it goes on, Chick Corea and Herbie Hancock. And it just, all these images of the guys just flooded back into my mind, and how I stood by the bandstand the night that Duke Ellington was reborn. And I was standing with Joe Jones, and Joe Jones rolled up a newspaper and started beating on the side of the stage. And he said, "I'll make those guys swing." People don't know that, but it was him beating on the stage that got that band into the groove. And Gonzalez took over 20 choruses of the blues, but Joe was hitting that stage and hollering at him.
That's
was
a great
great.
story. I like that one. That's
Yeah.
good. How about the young guys today, like Roy Hargrove you played with? How do they compare, or how has the tradition grown?
Roy Hargrove is just a natural. And the first time I met him, I had written a theme using his name, Roy Hargrove, and I had it in my pocket. And his manager, Larry, came walking out of the train in Frankfurt, Germany. And I said, "You know, I've written a tune. Why are you here, Larry?" Because I used to see him with Carmen McRae.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. I have to.
That's all right, I goofed anyway.
All right, tell me the Roy Hargrove story again about Larry and the train.
I was in Germany, and I always keep a pad in my pocket with music staff on it. And I was writing tunes because I was supposed to do an album with the Young Lions for Telarc. And I said, "These guys won't even know me. What are you doing? I can't do it." They said, "They've already all agreed." And Roy Hargrove was one of them. So I said to Larry, "Why are you here? Because I've always seen you with Carmen McRae." And he said, "I'm managing Roy Hargrove." And I said, "Well, I just wrote a tune for him. I have it here in my pocket." He says, "He's getting on the train." I said, "Let's go down there." And he said, "Come on, we got to run. The train's pulling out." So we got down there, and I said, "Roy, I'm Dave Brubeck. I've just written this tune, and I wish you'd look at it." He looked at it, and he sang it through perfectly. And he said, "I can play this." and he played it. We recorded after we both got back to the United States. One take, he had it. It played it beautifully.
That's awesome. So, do you feel any kind of, you're like the old master of jazz now, who was there in those days with Duke and all those guys, and developing the music with them, learning from each other, and now you're kind of passing on that knowledge and that tradition to younger people. Does that give you a certain sense of responsibility or enjoyment, or how does that kind of work for you?
Well, when I come here and I hear the younger people, I'm so happy to hear them carrying on the tradition. Our sons, 4 of them, are carrying on the tradition, which makes me feel great. I feel wonderful when I play with them, and they like to play with me, so that's a great feeling. And you've just heard Roy, and he's going to carry on the trumpet tradition, and people like him. All those young tigers were tremendous musicians, every one of them, like Christian McBride. One take, and he and I were buddies.
Yeah.
Right off. I didn't know him, And Joshua Redmond showed up. We did the tune, one take, and he's finished with the session. And that's the way it went. Then it was old tigers, young lions and old tigers. And my old friends came in, like George Shearing, Jerry Mulligan, John Hendricks, and it makes an interesting album because you have the older guys and the younger guys that are gradually going to take our places. And I feel that we're safe. We're in good hands with these young guys. These young pianists that I hear are so great. But then I think back to an Art Tatum, and none of us are greater. So you have the two things, but you have hope that out of these young guys, one of them may become as great as Tatum. They're starting so young and they're playing so great.
How has the feel of the festival changed from the days when you would take the ferry to now?
Well, I've been through many things in this festival. Riots, where they tried to set the piano on fire, and only the good priest came up and tried to calm things down, and people were breaking down the fences, but there was never the jazz people that did this. These were outside guys that came in to cause trouble. But that was the end of the festival for a while. You couldn't keep doing the festival if there's always a riot. We had to gradually come back. George was able to convince the city that those were outside people, not jazz people. And the city accepted that.
Is there any particular moment that you think of, a special performance by, a Coltrane or a Miles or an Ellington or whomever? Is there any special performance, one or two special moments that you think of?
I think of Bill Evans with Miles. And after the set, I said to Bill, what you played was the most interesting music of the whole festival. And there were all the top people there. I said, you're really saying something musically. And another time was all of us playing solo piano, one after another. And I followed Thelonious Monk. And as Thelonious got off the stage and walked down the stairs, I said how great it was. And I played, and I walked down the stairs, and and the only person there is Thelonious Monk. And he said, I like that. I once had dinner with Thelonious. He invited me to dinner, my wife, his son. He never said a word the entire dinner. Not hello, not goodbye. What would you like to eat? And his wife tells me that he thought that was one of the most interesting nights of his life. So
who knows?
who knows? He could read minds.
What do you think the Newport Festival has meant to jazz over the years? Or
It's kept it alive.
can you start with the Newport Festival?
The Newport Festival has kept jazz alive in the period where jazz was in a slump. I think that this festival was so important to keep the name guys up in the public image and in their minds. And we can never thank George Wein enough for believing in jazz right through. You know, it wasn't always easy for George. He didn't always make money on everything, but he kept it going. He believed in all of the jazz players, and he was a friend of these wonderful players, not just using them. He believed in them.
Wow, that's quite a compliment. That's a really nice.
I should go.
Okay, let's go.